Welcome to The Sideshow.
All right, welcome to another edition of The Sideshow. Today we have leading the charge an album that Mike is going to be heading up. Mike, why don't you let the audience know what we're going to talk about today?
Thanks, Mark. We're doing a couple of live albums this week for the podcast, and today we're going to talk about an live album by one of my favorite bands in some ways, the Kinks. Specifically, the Kinks' One for the Road, a live album that was released in 1980, and Side 2 specifically. And the Kinks are a very interesting, actually a very complex band in a lot of ways. And by the time that this album came out in 1980, their first album came out in 1964, and over the 16 years between their debut album and this album, the band went through, in my opinion, four different distinct phases. And there's material from all four of those on this album. And you can talk to other people that might throw an extra phase in there somewhere, because they were a band that really kind of was constantly changing and evolving as time went by. This was an album that came out when you and I were in high school.
Yep.
And the first time that I remember hearing it was at a beer party, and someone put it on and played it loud, and I just thought, this shit is fucking great.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to go through an elaborate description of these different phases of the Kinks, but just to kind of tick it off fairly quickly, you've got the initial Kinks, which was kind of part of the British invasion. And probably British Invasion is the best label to put on that.
Mm-hmm.
They were known initially for their song "You Really Got Me," which is arguably one of the very first heavy metal songs ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Kinks guitarist Dave Davies, the two primary members of the Kinks being Ray Davies, the primary songwriter and rhythm guitarist, and his brother Dave Davies, who
Mm-hmm.
also played guitar, primarily lead guitar. The lineup changes over the years that kind of go beyond the confines of this podcast. But in any event, Dave Davies arguably invented heavy metal with that riff. And they played, and aside from some of that stuff, they played kind of conventional, sort of Mercy beat, British Invasion pop. Did covers of Chuck Berry songs and whatnot, and as the later '60s started to loom, they started to get into a little bit more lyrically involved material. Some would argue that started with the album "Face to Face," which I believe was 1966. One of the songs on that album was "Sunny Afternoon." Most people would identify the album "Something Else," which followed that, and that was released in, I believe it was 1967. Others would say that it was the album after "Something Else," which is called "We Are the Village Green Preservation Society." But wherever the British invasion period and the next phase starts, I refer to it as the middle period, even though it's the second out of four. And these albums I've mentioned, Village Green Preservation Society was a song that was on the radio, sort of a concept album about a vanishing England that probably never existed in the first place.
Yeah.
Then it was followed by another concept album called Arthur, or The Decline and Fall of the British Empire, which is kind of about going to Australia.
Hmm.
The album Lola and the or Power Lola versus Power Man and the Money Go Round, Part One, which had the song
Go
Lola,
figure.
which had
Yeah.
the song Lola on it, and then Muswell Hillbillies was kind of what most people regard as the end of the middle period, and that was their artistic high point, in my humble
Hmm.
opinion. And I've got most all of those individual albums on CD at this point, and it's just more introspective songwriting, some concepts coming and common themes coming into the albums, just tightly constructed, almost Beatles-esque pop music,
Hmm.
Beatles from the later era rather than the earlier. Um, but After the album Muswell Hillbillies, the Kinks entered what some have referred to as the theatrical period, and the music became a lot more almost like vaudeville. They'd have, rock songs, ballads, sort of music hall numbers, and just much more theatrical, vaudevillian type material. And there was, Everyone's in Showbiz, the Preservation Act, and a number of albums. Not really their best period, in my opinion. And so that was in the, starting in the early to mid '70s, kind of through the mid '70s period. And then in 1977, the Kinks released an album called Sleepwalker, and that started their fourth phase. And the phase that they were in at the time of the release of this album, and in 1977 was the album Sleepwalker, 1978 Misfits, and 1979 Low Budget.
Hmm.
And those albums started what is commonly referred to as the arena rock phase of the Kinks.
Hmm.
And I don't know if we've ever talked about that whole concept of arena rock on any of our podcasts, but it was something that I think started to come around in the late '70s, and like around the time that we were going to high school, junior high and high school. And I think that arena rock, some examples of arena rock bands from that time would be bands like April Wine,
Hmm.
or Tuna Fish era REO Speedwagon, or Loverboy,
Yeah.
stuff like audience friendly hard rock.
Yeah.
And and so that's kind of the mode that the band was in when they recorded this album. But there is material from all four of these phases, and on side two that we're going to be talking about, there is music from uh, uh, three of the four phases.
Mhm.
And so even though the way that the songs are presented is a little different than they were on the original albums as time went by over the course of their whole career, it's just it's just a great packaging, in my opinion, of the Kinks music. And there's a lot of people that don't necessarily, this album is not going to make, any the best rock live albums ever, and it's not necessarily going to be at the top of the list in a lot of Kinks fans, uh, but that's their problem.
Yeah.
I think that this is just an incredibly fun album, and just exactly the sort of album that you'd put on at a party where people want to just listen to some good rockin' tunes and have a good time.
Oh, I'd agree, and I mean, some of that for us is timing, because this was the music that was playing at the beer parties that we were going to. I mean, times that we look back at as just being a fucking blast, and this was the soundtrack to those times, and it's more than timing though. The material itself and the Kinks. These guys were trailblazers. You talked about, the first, heavy metal song. I mean, these guys were I saw some review that referred to them as the elder statesmen that blazed the way for punk rock and for heavy metal because of the music that they were playing. I mean, these guys have been covered by a lot of bands. I mean, Van Halen. We've had an episode on Van Halen's debut album, which is a fucking classic. And on side one of that album, they've got a cover of "You Really Got Me." It is the they were real trailblazers. They were very creative. They were doing things that other bands weren't doing. And you talk about the British invasion, they certainly were a part of the British invasion, but they're not spoke of in the same breath as like the Rolling Stones and the Who. And I really feel that that is a crime because I feel that they were doing more forward-looking things with music than either of those two bands were. Two great bands. I mean, this is nothing negative about them. The Rolling Stones were really based in blues, kind of anchoring a lot of their stuff to blues, doing different things with it. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of that anchor, and there was a lot of music on their albums that was just blues that we were coming out with. The Beatles, clearly a creative trailblazer, especially in their earlier music when this was happening. Very kind of pop, really consumable type music that they were coming at. A lot of covers that they were doing, in their earlier albums. I'm talking about these earlier years. The Kinks, they were doing stuff that nobody else was doing, and other bands would eventually follow, right, years in the future. And I really see they didn't get the credit that they deserved, mainly because they didn't understand the difference between selling out and playing the game. Selling out is something that a lot of bands, especially young creative bands, want to avoid at all costs, and that's understandable when you're really trying to be, do your own thing and get things done. But there is a game in the music business that in order to be successful, you have to play. And the Kinks did not play the game. They weren't just bad boys to the audience. They were bad boys to the press. They were bad boys to their promotional people and their record label. They were, bad boys to the venues that they were playing at, and they were bad boys to the unions that were necessary to be able to, to be able to perform, especially in the United States. And that led to them being barred from playing in U.S. venues for 4 years, right in the height of the British invasion, because they refused. A lot of reasons that stemming from the fact that they slugged out a union official in the dressing room before one of the things. They had problems with their promoters on their U.S. tour, and they refused to play shows and only play half performances when there was poor showing. I mean, they did not play the game, and I think it cost them, because this was some incredibly forward-looking, great music. And although now they're seen as a big part of that invasion, they just are not spoken of at the same level as some of these other bands. And I mean, I think if you look back at their material and the songwriting of Ray Davies, they probably should be. But you do have to play the game. And I think that they missed the boat on that one. That's just kind of my thought process, because this is some really good music, and it is just as good when you talk about creativity and new kind of stuff. When you look at the Rolling Stones, you look at Led Zeppelin, these guys were ahead of their time.
Well, as far as playing the game, I mean, your take on why it is that the Kinks have sort of, they're not spoken of in that top tier of British bands from that era. I think your analysis is on target. But on a podcast that we did on the Clash's first album, we talked about the fact that the Clash were getting shit for playing ball.
Yeah.
But they were able to get their music out, and their music didn't play ball. I mean, their music was calling a spade a spade.
Yeah.
and everything. But they figured out how to, what to do and what not to do in terms
Yeah.
that things that might create obstacles to getting their music out there.
Yeah.
And they did not compromise their musical principles.
No.
And so I guess I don't disagree with you that an ability to navigate the rock and roll game is gonna put someone out there easier than an artist that chooses not to take that approach.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got some exceptions. I mean, like Neil Young, for example. He doesn't necessarily. A lot of fans would get frustrated with how he would do things at various points in his career.
Yeah.
But he would always end up kind of coming back to a more audience-friendly approach,
Mm-hmm.
or doing whatever it was. Because if people wanted to buy his records, the record companies are going to be, they never. No,
Yeah.
Neil Young never got dumped by the record company. But and when the Kinks were doing their best stuff, which was late 60s, very beginning of the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
was when I in my humble opinion, that's when the Kinks were doing their best stuff. And a lot of those albums, they didn't get the sort of exposure
Mm-hmm.
as records by the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, and what have you. And I
But
agree with you.
they
It's a
couldn't tour
shame.
in the United States. They couldn't tour in the United States. So how are you gonna in the biggest market of the world? How are you gonna? Because that's how promotion occurred back in those days, right?
Yeah.
You promoted your albums on tour. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to but I mean, I'm buying everything you're saying there.
Yeah,
That's,
no,
it's
but and in some ways, it allows people to check out their music without without the sort of preconceptions or hype or attention, sometimes over attention that
yeah.
some music, or overexposure that some music gets. And for anyone who's interested in sort of the pop rock music of the late 60s as opposed to heavy music from the late 60s, albums like Something Else, Village Green Preservation Society, Arthur, and Lola versus Power Man, those albums are well worth your while.
Yeah.
And we're really, and I agree with you that they are forward looking in what they were doing. I mean, there are songs off of Village Green Preservation Society that are just as good as any Beatles song, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, in terms of their construction and performance as pop songs. But in any
Well,
event,
and retrospectively, I mean, the view of their music is very positive critically, and it's really, to me, it's just a shame. I mean, the Kinks sold 50 million albums, right? They sold 50 million records, but that's mainly because they had a huge catalog. I mean, they put out a lot of stuff, a few golds, no platinum albums, right? And this is for a band that is, again, looking back now, is seen as such just a very good band with incredible songwriting talent. I mean, Ray Davies, we talked about, Van Halen, but, the Pretenders covered some of the, in fact, we're going to hear a song today that was
yeah.
covered by the Pretenders and was a hit for them. And clearly an influence on a lot of bands going forward based on the type of music that they were playing. But they just never got the commercial traction, and at the time they didn't get the critical attraction either because they had a way of pissing everybody off. But didn't change the fact that it was awfully fun to listen to. When we were at a beer party down in at a neighbor's house or something like that to hear this stuff playing because it's awfully good, awfully good.
I think it might have been at our house.
Might
Actually,
have been at our house, but that's
uh,
not that we had any beer parties at our house, but yeah,
of course not.
yeah,
But in any case, so I've already mentioned that that this album came during their so-called arena rock phase, and even though all of the performances on this album, and we're focusing on side two of this album,
Yeah.
are kind of presented in that vein, they also are not unfaithful renderings of material from other phases.
Hmm.
There's a couple of tracks from their early phase, and they're presented in sort of a newer, fresher uh, uh, context, but they aren't reworkings of the song.
Yeah.
It's more a matter of sort of tone and effect than the actual arrangements of the songs. And by the late 70s, the there were so many different pies that the Kinks had their fingers in, from sort of hard rocking British invasion to sort of more campier material to kind of jangle pop, or to stuff that was arena rock when it was created.
Yeah.
And then you've got sort of the punk rock, British new wave influence. And I mean, and Ray Davies, he kind of fit in well with that whole vibe, and was able to,
Hmm.
didn't have to write new songs necessarily, to
Yeah.
kind of be able to present their material in a way that would be palatable to members of the audience who were taken with that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you've got everything from just standard Midwestern yahoos who liked FM radio rock music in the late 70s, to kind of people longing for the good old days of British invasion pop, to people that were looking at the artier stuff from their middle period, and then others,
Yeah.
that you had this big stew of different types of music that was being presented in a very audience friendly way, that like I say, you put this side on, or this album on in general, at a beer party, and people, it's gonna go over well.
Yeah.
And that's taking a lot of different things and presenting it to the audience as it is, but in a way that's going to be sort of uniformly appealing.
Hmm.
And maybe it was by this point the Kinks figured, yeah, we've been fucking around long enough. Let's start playing the game,
Yeah.
because now this album was recorded at a lot of different locations. I think primarily in the United States. And at the same time that this album was released, there was a concert video, also called One for the Road, that was released, which I believe was recorded at one concert.
Hmm.
I guess I have a CD or a DVD-R of that, and I've watched it, and the performances of some of the songs are different. They're from a different underlying recording than the ones that are used on the album.
Hmm.
So anyone who is interested in this, there is a video that I'm sure you can find on, whether it's Amazon or Netflix or some
Yeah.
other streaming. You can probably find that somewhere. But there is a concert video that was released at around the same time. But this album, it was a double album. I got a copy here. The front cover of the album, that is Ray Davies, the songwriter and primary vocalist. Back cover has his brother Dave, the lead guitarist. There is a gatefold. It's a double album, and the inside has a photo of the band in concert, a little bit out of focus, so it has a real live feel.
Hmm.
Um, and and that's the record. It was just kind of your typical double live album that would come out in the 70s.
I think a really cool photo on that cover of Ray Davies. I mean, the way he's holding that guitar and looking off to the side. I mean, we've made this comment about other, it's like he looks like a rock star. in there. You know, you kind of when I'm air guitaring, I'm trying to look like that, right? With with what I'm doing, just really kind of a cool picture that set the tone for what's
Well,
inside.
and you also, but you look at that again, and in addition to that rock pose and just that rock attitude on his face, he's playing a Telecaster guitar instead of like a Les Paul or a
Yeah.
Strat, and he's got a suit jacket and a bow
And a
tie.
bow tie. Yeah, yeah.
Kind of a new wavy sort of thing, and so
Which at that time, that was not the attire for bands at rock concerts. I
yeah.
mean, that was tight jeans, an open shirt where you could see the chest and that type of thing. I mean, that was much more what these guys were wearing than that. So, doing their own thing.
Yeah. So and even though it was kind of a typical double live album from the '70s, that it was distinctly Kink, the
Yeah.
Kinks, in my opinion. In any case, I mean, we can start talking about the songs on side two. Side two, I believe is the best of the sides as a whole on this album. But there is great material on all three of these sides, and there are some that might argue differently. But side two starts out with a bang. And the first song on side two is All Day and All of the Night. And this kind of illustrates, I think, what I was trying to articulate earlier about how they're presenting their material from a number of different eras in an arena rock context and doing it effectively. And I think that this track is a good illustration of that. All Day and All the Night is one of their earlier, that comes from their initial British invasion
Yep.
period. It's kind of like, You Really Got Me Part 2 is really kind of what it's like musically.
Yeah.
Very riff heavy performance. And we'll play some of this song. And to kind of get at what I'm trying to talk about this arena rock presentation here, going to play three clips from this song. The first is the beginning, and basically the first verse of the song. The second clip will be the beginning of the guitar solo, and the third clip will be the end of the guitar solo, where there's some kind of audience participation type stuff, very short and to the point, that kind of puts all this together. And let's listen to those, and then we will continue on the other side.
Rock bands will come, rock bands will go, but rock and roll's gonna go on forever. All day and all the night. I'm not
All right. Okay. Well, now the very beginning, rock bands will come and rock bands will go, but rock and roll's gonna go on forever. And I mean, it starts with a bang.
Yeah.
And that is a faithful rendering of this song from going back to the original single that came out in 1964, 1965, whenever that was. And but it has a fresh, current rock sound.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I just I mean, this side and this song starts out with a bang. And
also another thing that has always stuck out with me from this particular album. It's got nothing to do with the quality of the music, but there was a real trend in music for these British invasion bands. Everybody, they had a way of singing with an English accent, an American accent, not a British accent, right? They grew up listening to American blues singers, and when they'd sing with an American accent. And you can listen to a lot of bands that if you listen to them talk in an interview, you don't hear you hear the English accent, but when you listen to them singing, it sounds like it's someone with an American accent that's singing. This was some of the first music that I listened to where the accent, the British accent, comes through. Now you hear it right away when he's saying rock bands will come and rock bands. So that kind of gets you thinking that. But as you're listening to the music, you can hear that accent coming through. Now that became more common as we get more current, right? You listen to a band like Oasis, right? You can hear their accent in the music, and a lot of other bands as well. But I think from a packaging perspective and the way the music industry was, this was some of the first music that I remember really enjoying and listening to, where those accents came through in the music. So nothing to really do with the quality of the music, just something I remember from this, and you certainly hear it on this particular song.
Well, and if you look at the picture of Dave Davies on the back of the record,
yeah,
he looks, and I don't know how well it came through the computer camera, but he looks. I can remember thinking that when I first saw this album and was just kind of checking it out and looking it over. It's like that guy looks like he's from England.
Yeah.
And you look at a band like when the Beatles, would come over and play on Ed Sullivan and whatnot.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily look American as opposed to British, but they didn't strike you as, oh, those guys have got to be from England.
Yeah.
You look at the Stones, or Roger Daltrey from The Who. I mean, Roger Daltrey is the sort of guy that you could envision on a beach in California.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but
yeah.
I mean, your point being, there was something very English about the Kinks.
Yeah.
That just gave that didn't get put through this music business filter for with an eye towards conquering America.
Yeah.
And
so that was a segue there, because we just listened to some good, but I continue just in those clips to hear that as well. So
well, now and kind of moving to the second part of the clip, the beginning of the guitar solo. I think the reason that's important is that, when you listen to the Kinks music from the 60s, you don't think of Dave Davies in the same vein as, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. You didn't. I mean, despite the innovative power chords of "You Really Got Me" and whatnot. I mean, that's not the same feel.
Yeah.
That he played with at that time, at least as far as I'm concerned. But in this guitar solo here, I mean, he plays just excellent 70s era lead guitar. I mean, and when I think of, like 1970s, kind of big time lead guitar, I mean, one of the things I think of is Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
Just that clean. I mean, and Dave Davies plays a Les Paul. Just those clean, well played notes.
Mm-hmm.
Audience friendly. Not too much distortion. Doesn't
Yeah.
have that sort of aggressive Black Sabbath, Judas Priest kind of darkness
Yeah.
to it. Just audience friendly hard rock.
Yeah.
And so Dave Davies, whatever he's done, whatever he had done as a guitar player up to this point, showed himself to be an incredibly competent and talented lead guitarist who
Yeah.
could play lead guitar in the style that was big in the late 70s when these concerts were recorded.
Yeah.
And then moving to the third part of the clip, where they get to the end of the solo, the guitarist, kind of slows down and the solo proper is done and kind of making a transition towards getting back into the song. And then Ray Davies, the vocalist, comes in with the way-oh.
Yeah.
And then the crowd is into it. They're fucking, hey, yeah, we're at because that's what was happening at the concerts in those days. A beer party.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And so he's able to, and he's got, the audience is with him.
Yeah.
And so this performance, in my opinion, does a nice job of illustrating how they were able to take music from an earlier era and without really repackaging it, presenting it in the contemporary context, and it was great.
Yeah.
So
it not only that, but listening to it now, again, it's just this is good. This moves along. This captures the listener just like it did the people standing in the crowd when they were playing it, right? It's your head's going to be moving when you're listening to this song.
I've always liked guitar-oriented music, and when I was first listening to music, one of my main focuses was on hard rock music, but it didn't have to be hard as in scary, dark, aggressive. It could be sort of sweetly rock, whatever sort of label you want to put on it, but this is audience friendly.
Yeah.
So great opener in my opinion. To open the album. Now the next track is number 2 on the side is called 20th Century Man, and this is the opening track of an album called Muswell Hillbillies, which is generally regarded as the last album from what I call the middle period. Mm-hmm. And there's a little, this is going to be a little faster version than the original studio recording, but otherwise sticks the song is relatively faithfully rendered. It starts out with some acoustic guitar, but it is a good old arena rock song. Mm-hmm. And it's really he's complaining about how technology and the machinery of life was smothering and overwhelming, and this is 1971.
Yeah.
Is what this song is about.
Yeah.
And it's like, Ray, you ain't seen nothing yet, in terms of but why don't we listen to a little bit of the beginning of this song, so that listeners can kind of get a feel for things. And this is just the beginning of the song, and we'll talk some more on the other side.
20th Century Man.
Okay, well, there you go. And, so, I mean, this starts out with an acoustic guitar, but then, kind of the drums come in and next thing you know, you're rocking out. And, I'm a 20th century man, but I don't want to be here.
It really starts smooth, right? This is the age of machine, or it's they're not shouting, they're not whatever, and then to your point, that little piece that you just did there, it's almost sounds like something you'd hear at an Appalachian barn dance or something like that. The vocals kind of don't want, kind of don't want to be here. It kind of switches up because it does start really smooth, and then it's almost like agitating the way that chorus comes in. I don't know. It's a cool song.
Well, and the studio version of this song, as well as some of the other material on the album Muswell Hillbillies that this song is from. We did a podcast recently on the band's second album, the Brown album. And I think that there is some influence of that sort of, kind of let sort of a more rural feel to some of the material. Now that's not the way that the song is performed on this version. But it's if you listen to the studio version of the song and you listen to this one, they're not that different. This one's a little more hard rocking, and that sort of arena rock electric guitar is there more. But it's the same. It's still the same song. A guy that's lamenting how the new age is just no good. It's too complicated. I'm smothering in technology and machinery and a mechanical nightmare. And there's, I mean, and I don't need to, I think that the lead guitar in the previous song, All Day and All the Night, kind of lets you know how their arena rock guitar sounds here. But this song includes plenty of it. And as the song continues, you get your money's worth. It doesn't rock as hard as All Day and All of the Night, but this is the sort of song that would get people up on their feet, clapping their hands, tapping their foot, wanting to finish their beer and get another. Despite the fact that lyrically he's trying to say something, because this was still, this was probably 1979 when the actual performances occurred. Maybe early 1980. I don't know the exact dates, but this was still definitely in the 20th century. This is before Ronald Reagan was president when these concerts were performed, and when you think back, because I don't know, when I think of the 70s, I think that was back before things got fucked up. When I think about it, in terms, whether it's in terms of art or music or movies or whatever, but Ray Davies and his brother, they're older than we are.
Yeah.
And that's
they thought, oh no, stuff's fucked up now. Yeah. Right. And I mean, I think they go farther than just technology and art. They've got some social commentary in there too. Don't want to get myself shot down by some trigger happy policeman. I mean, they've got a few things to say, about everything that's going on and the things that 20th century men have to worry about. And, and you kind of let off with, you ain't seen nothing yet, as far as where they're going with that.
Well, and, I mean, and everything is relative, because a lot of the most, sort of dramatic social musical upheaval, took place in the 60s. Yeah. And a lot of that was because of changes in the culture that weren't necessarily directly tied to evolving technology, but evolving technology was getting what was out there and happening. More people were aware of it and able to understand it and find out information about it. So there's I mean it's kind of it's what's been happening throughout time, that the parents look at their children's generation and sort of shake their head and
Yep.
what's the world coming to. That's been going on a long time.
Oh yeah.
Since before you and I and our parents were born.
Yes.
But just when he sings, I'm a paranoid schizoid product of the 20th century.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of it's things are tough all over. Let's just do the best we can, and we got to find a solution.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
very the sound and feel of the song as you're listening to it musically doesn't align with more drag you down type lyrics, because you don't feel, as you're listening to it, you don't feel like you're getting dragged down. The song itself is really more of a pick me up.
Oh, it is. I mean, just that guitar at the beginning, when it's just Ray Davies playing acoustic guitar, it's up, and fits in well with. I mean, kind of like new wave, post punk, punk rock, up, high energy. Just let's play this one a little faster than on the studio version. Maybe add a little more electric guitar. That's all he did, and it is. It's a pick me up. I mean, that's a good term. There's nothing. I don't think there's more we can say. It's a song that is articulating serious concerns about the evolution of culture on the planet, but at the same time is letting you rock out and not have to really worry about it.
Yep.
So 20th Century Man. Moving on, the next track on side 2 is called Misfits, which is the title song from one of their arena rock albums, Misfits, which was released in 1978. The second of the 3 so-called arena rock albums that were released before this live album, and this is a ballad. It's not a slow ballad, but it's a song about, if you can believe it, being a misfit. And why don't we play a little clip of the middle of the song? Like the first 2 tracks on this side, we get some. It's in the context of a ballad, but we get some good lead guitar from Dave Davies, and as well, and we can talk about it on the other side. All right. So there, what you heard is basically the chorus of the song, and followed by a guitar solo by Dave Davies, and and I think this song is rendered. I don't know if I've actually heard the because I haven't listened to Misfits in a long time, and I can't even remember the last time I listened to the studio version of this, but it was decades ago, and so I can't comment on how faithful the rendering is, but just very straightforward, accessible, radio friendly music performed at a concert.
And they pulled a couple of the verses out from I think just to shorten it up time or whatever. The interesting thing is, I mean, the song is about I picture this as a person talking to themselves, right? Almost like I'm a misfit, and these are the different things that are happening. It's interesting that the verses that they took out, I don't know if it was an intentional or not. I think it was more just a time thing. But the verses that they took out was basically saying, "Hey, everybody's a misfit." There's a verse that look at all the losers and the mad-eyed gazers, look at all the loonies and the sad-eyed failures. Bottom line is there's misfits are everywhere. So it's kind of yeah, you're a misfit, but so's everybody else. Which is to me is a little bit more of a kind of, hey, we're trying to be a little positive here. Sure, you're a misfit, but everybody is, right? But for whatever reason, they kind of pulled a couple lyrics out, so it's really more focused on the things that why you're a misfit or what you may be doing about it. But I've always heard this song as someone talking to themselves, saying, look, you're a misfit, you don't fit in, you go a different path, these types of things. But kind more of a gentler song than what we've been hearing leading up to this point.
Well, and and I don't disagree with you. I think that the point is really what you said. So you're a misfit. Well, guess what? So is everybody else.
Join the club.
And yeah, join the club. And and now there's various ways. The chorus, you're a misfit. You're afraid of yourself, so you run away and hide. You've been a misfit all your life. Why don't you join the crowd and come inside? Yeah. That sort of suggests someone that's kind of an outsider, that's not accepted by his peer or his or her peers, and this and that. But I mean, at various points in anyone's life, I mean, when you're going to school, when you're in junior high and high school, well, the pecking order at school is what's important.
Yeah.
When you graduate from high school and you get a job, well, just kind of your focus or where you want to be accepted is kind of changes. And if you go to college, college is more like high school than just going right into a job of some kind is, but college is different than high school.
Yeah.
Just like high school is different than junior high, etc.
Yeah.
And so, as the chorus continues, you wander around this town like you've lost your way. You had your chance in your day, but yet you threw it all away. But you know what they say, every dog has his day. Now, I think that the song is suggesting that, when every dog has his day could be, just wait, you're going to get your chance to,
yeah.
Well, you've already had your chance.
Mm-hmm.
You were the big man on campus in high school, but, now, 10 years later, I mean, at the 10-year
you're just a misfit.
at the 10-year high school reunion, the pecking order is different.
Yeah.
Than it was when you were actually in high school.
Yep.
And so the every dog has his day, I think, can either be interpreted as, you've already had your time in the sun. Now you know what it's like to be the rest of us. To, don't worry, your time will come. It hasn't come around yet, but just keep on keeping on, and it will, and you'll break out of it. It's a song that sort of celebrates the oddball while sort of extending a little hope.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
uh, uh,
And kind of like it's okay. A lot of misfits out there, and they all get a shot. So that and the way that they sing that, it's almost like they want it to be a separate thought that, hey, every dog has his day. That's they kind of end each of the things. They kind of extend it. They slow it down a little just for those words. So they're certainly trying to make that as a point, right? Every dog has its day. You can kind of hear it, and then they tend to break and that type of thing. So I enjoy the song. I think it's a good tune. Again, little not as hard as we started the side with.
well, but kind of consistent with the sort of the opening salvo of this is a great album side to play at a beer party. It's got enough rhythm. It is a
Yes.
ballad,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's got
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
It's got enough of a rhythm to it that it's not putting anybody to sleep.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
just it's sort of
Exactly.
giving you a chance to catch your breath after a couple of more rockin'
Well, I mean,
openers.
when I say we've calmed down a little bit from all day and all of the night, I mean we've got a long way to go before we get to sleepy.
True. True. Well, in any case, to kind of get back to the high energy track number 4, and this is kind of an interesting song in a number of ways, is called "Prince of the Punks," and this song actually has kind of a punk rock, maybe new wave would be the better
Yeah.
label, energy to it. And there's kind of an interesting backstory to this song. There's an English artist from the '70s named Tom Robinson, and I've never purchased any of his albums or anything. I've heard of him and was familiar with him. He had a band called the Tom Robinson Band, and in the '70s there was a song called 2468 Motorway that came out in the late '70s, and then there was another song called Glad to Be Gay that Tom Robinson came out with in the later '70s, which is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But earlier in his career, in the early '70s, I believe it was, it was in the early '70s sometime, and he was in a band called Cafe Society, and Ray Davies took note of them from, I assume, seeing a performance somewhere in London or in England somewhere, and produced an album by them. And for whatever reason, I don't know all the details of the story, so I don't want to talk out of school. But Ray Davies and Tom Robinson got sideways with each other over the course of this experience of Ray Davies producing this album. And apparently the album sold like 600 copies, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a particularly fulfilling, profitable endeavor for anyone involved. And so there was some bad blood between Ray Davies and Tom Robinson, who went on after this experience to be an artist in his own right. But it was in 1970, I believe 1977, after the Sleepwalker album had been released, which was the first of the Kinks' so-called arena rock albums. But in any case, before Christmas in 1977, the Kinks released a song called Father Christmas, which, if I understand correctly, is basically what Santa Claus is referred to in England.
Yeah.
And I've not actually heard that song, but on the internet I read that it's about a kid that goes to see like the Santa Claus at the mall kind of thing, and give them their Christmas wishes, and basically said, stop giving us toys. We need money and food on the table, and job opportunities for my mom and dad,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So kind of a snide, probably punkish sort of. But in any case, the B-side of this single that was released, like a month before Christmas in 1977, the B-side was Prince of the Punks.
Mm-hmm.
And by all accounts, Ray Davies wrote this song directed at Tom Robinson, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty vicious
Yeah.
personal attack. And Ray Davies, I generally would not consider him a vicious person, based on his songs, at least as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, I think of him being far more humanitarian in his thinking than nasty or prone to this kind of vitriol. But be that as it may, that's kind of the backdrop of this song. Now it's kind of a pick me up song. And why don't we just listen to the beginning of it, and we can continue on the other side. Okay, this well, there you heard it. I mean, like just kind of a new wave, high energy. You could dance the pogo to this song, perhaps. But it's talking about what you might call a poser. Someone who was all flash and style. But there was no substance underneath it, and no real allegiance to any kind of ethos. Just sort of, how can I package myself so that it'll go over in a way that people will accept and like. I'm not really in a position to render an opinion as to whether or not Tom Robinson merited such criticism. But it's clear that the singer does not have a lot of respect for the person he's singing about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he tried to be gay, but it didn't pay. I mean, this guy seems to be following the crowd as opposed to being who he generally is. Plus, there's some hits at like his musical talent, as you go through there about, not just that he didn't like this or whatever, but he failed at funk, so he became a punk. Some very digging type things. I will, just looking at the title of this song, Prince of the Punks, I was expecting a punk type song, those first couple chords of guitar, it starts out and it's got this punk kind of feel. I have a hard time explaining it though. It very quickly, there's an element that gets added. There's some rhythm that gets added that really feels a lot more kind of 70s pop. I guess that comes in. The guitar is still there, and that type. It's not that they change that. There's something that just gets layered in. I can't even really put my finger on it in listening to the song. I'm not saying that it's bad because the song works, right? Musically, the song works, and it is. Listening to the lyrics, it's like, no love lost here. But it's just got it moves along, and certainly more up in that up tempo, get our foot tapping type direction that they're going in. A really great song. And if you do study the lyrics, the more you're saying to yourself, oh, you don't like this guy.
Well, and I think that it's a more of a new wave song.
Yeah.
Not a punk song.
Oh, I'd agree, but it's that whole, just that hearing punk in the title, and then right away the first things are these fast moving guitar chords. That's just the direction that my mind said. I would agree with you, and especially as you get into the song, that's absolutely it. I'm just coming at it, just looking at the title and the first the first fields. That's just what I was thinking.
And the the Prince of the Punks. But the song isn't attacking punk rock. It's attacking this guy, who the performer, that the musician that the singer is talking about, and this is also kind of the late 70s was a different era in terms of what you could talk about, because he's much too old for 28, but he thinks he's 17. He thinks he's a stud, but he looks more like a queen. Mm-hmm. Now, when I first heard this song, which was back in 1980, I thought that was kind of like this guy's gay.
Yeah.
And earlier in the song, and I don't think there's any, the Tom Robinson, as far as I'm aware, there's no real debate. He's gay. He was a gay man, and that wasn't necessarily as accepted in the 70s as it became, decades later. But when there's the reference to gay, he tried to be gay, but it didn't pay. It doesn't, the song doesn't appear to be accusing him of buggery and being a homosexual. That's not what the song is about. But that language, he thinks he's a stud, but I think he looks more like a queen. It's like, yeah, he may think he's a macho man, but he's more of a limp wrist in my, when I heard this back in those days, I thought that the guy said, geez, he's saying the guy's gay.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Socially, in mainstream society, there was less of an acceptance. I think in the music community, these guys, were much more attuned to the fact that there was people in their industry around them and that type of thing that were gay, and they worked with them and they performed with them and that type of thing. I look, he tried to be gay, but it didn't pay, so he went on to be something else. It was almost like they lost respect for him because he didn't stay, more gay and that type of thing. I believe that within the industry, especially when you look at like the London music scene in the 60s and 70s, but some of those people were gay. And it was known within the community, not necessarily, but I'd also agree with you, publicly much less accepted. Either way, the way that he phrases these lines, though, it doesn't matter whether you think it's a pro or a con or a hit or not. He makes sure it's said in a way that is a knock on this guy,
Yeah.
right? Well written lyrically, if that's what you're trying to do. He succeeded.
Apparently he was trying to do that, and he succeeded. But I mean, and so I would say that it is. It is not the strongest track on the side, but it's a high energy song that kind of fits in musically with the side, and with that upbeat toe tap and beer party sort of energy, and even though it is basically a very personal dig at a real person, apparently. When you listen to the song, it doesn't come across as negative.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's presented in a way that whatever the lyrical message is, you can have fun listening to the song. And because there isn't a sneer or a harsh tone to the singing.
Yeah.
The sound of the song is more fun than negative.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's regardless of what he's trying to say, it's a fun song to listen to.
And let's face it, when you're at the beer party, you're not as focused on the lyrics as you are if you're just sitting quietly by yourself listening to some music. Or or like you're listening in the car, whatever it might be. So, in any event, not the strongest track on the side, but an interesting track, and certainly a toe tapper along with most of the others. The last song on the side is "Stop Your Sobbing," which is one of their. I think it's one of their hits. It comes from their very first album called Kinks, which was released, I believe, in 1964. Same album that had "You Really Got Me" on it. So this, we've had songs from. There's another song from their British invasion period. The Misfits was from, and Misfits and Prince of the Punks from their arena rock phase. 20th Century Man from their middle period, and "Stop Your Sobbing" is a song that many people have heard. This song was covered by Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders on the first Pretenders album. And a lot of people, including myself, would take the position that the Pretenders version is the superior version of this song. But this is just a straight pop song. It's the only song on the side that doesn't have a Dave Davies guitar solo in it. But it is just straight up 60s, even early 60s pop. I mean, it's even a little treacly, you might say, but also very unique and kind of fits in with that. These were just the way they sing. The Kinks were a very British, very English band in the way that they presented their thing. Why don't we play a little bit of the beginning of this song? You don't need much to kind of get the idea here, and then we can continue after. All right, there you go. And when they say, it is time for you to stop all of your sobbing. Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, 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 it is time. A little schmaltzy, little,
Mm-hmm.
but it's another one of the tracks on this side that do a very good job of presenting a song from an earlier era without changing it really, but just presenting it in a way that fits in with the contemporary style that they're using for their performances.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd also agree with you that the Pretenders version, uh, 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 it plays better, not necessarily because it's musically superior, but I have a better vision of this Chrissy Hynde, this rock and roll girl that's looking at her boyfriend saying, "Look, if you're gonna hang with me, I don't want no crybabies, right?" As opposed to Ray Davies looking at his girlfriend saying, "Stop the fucking crying." I mean, I look at Ray and say, dude, a little sensitivity might come in handy here, right? Whereas Chrissy Honest, hey, I'm a rock and roll girl. I don't want to, with, it's one of these kind of themes where a woman singing it just plays differently than a man singing it. We've had in previous episodes, songs where it's like, yeah, if a man covered this, it wouldn't go right. This is almost like you've got this Pretenders song, and it's just kind of, yeah, if a man covered this, it wouldn't go as well. But then it's like, wait a second, this is a cover of a man singing the song. It's like, this is a very confusing situation here. But they're really, the songs are pretty similar. I mean, what Chrissy Hyde does, she doesn't do a lot of change up to the song, and even the rhythm and that kind of thing is fairly similar. It's just you've got a male singing one and you've got a female singing the other. That comes to pass. Basically the same song. It kind of talking about all this crying, but it moves along, and I think that it ends up being kind of a not a hard and heavy, but an upbeat way of ending the side.
Well, and one I think when you talk about the difference between a male singer performing this song versus a female singer performing this song, I mean, those are all good points. But one thing that I think is true of the Kinks rendition of this song with Ray Davies singing is that it doesn't, the way that it is performed, it doesn't make you think that the singer is saying, knock off the crying or else. And even though the lyrics do not acknowledge that it's probably something that the singer did that has caused her to cry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but the way that it's performed, you don't get the feel that the singer is the bad guy. That you get the thought that the singer wants who he's singing to be happy. It's
Yes.
time for
Yeah,
you to laugh instead of crying. And so
yeah.
because maybe maybe she's crying about something that he didn't cause.
Yeah.
And he's just and this is someone, look, I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be together, we're not going to be down in the mouth all the time. We're going to be enjoying life.
Yeah.
We're going to be enjoying each other. We're going to be enjoying the things we do. And if there's things that make you want to cry, we're going to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I think the way that the song is performed leaves that open. And I don't think it's I think that, and maybe it's just that sort of peculiar Englishness of the Kinks and Ray Davies' just sort of unique way of presenting himself as a rock frontman that allows him to get away with that, because
Yeah.
I think he does get away with it. And it's and I mentioned, this song came on the same album as You Really Got Me, which is just
Yeah.
sort of one of the most kind of aggressive, arguably the first heavy metal song ever.
Yeah.
And, girl, I want to be with you. the same kind of early rock like All Day and All the Night. You Really Got Me, and then this. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of breadth in the spectrum of different types of songs that the Kinks performed, and this is sort of at probably the sappier end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
But I think performed, it catches you. I mean, that gotta stop sobbing now, stop, that's something
Yeah.
that sticks with you. I mean, I remember, because when I heard the Pretenders version, I definitely remembered hearing the Kinks version first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember hearing the Kinks. When I first heard "You Really Got Me" by Van Halen, I don't remember I didn't think of the Kinks version. But
but I mean, the interesting thing is, though, I mean, the Van Halen cover was before we were listening to this album. So
True.
we talked about the fact that, I mean, this album kind of brought us, even though this was incredibly popular and the Kinks were big and that type of thing, but I mean, we were in diapers when these guys were making this early music. But we heard the Van Halen version before we heard this music. And this music was, for me anyway, I'll speak for me, this introduced me to get to want to listen to some more Kinks music. It was this album, this live album, whether it be at the beer parties or up in our bedroom or whatever. Listening to this introduced me to the Kinks, and quite frankly, I mean, after that, I'd be listening to the studio versions and I'd be comparing it, whether I liked it more or less than the live version, because what I'd become accustomed to listening to was the live version, and you kind of miss, a little bit of, Ray's interaction with the crowd that occurred in a couple of spots and that type of thing when you were listening to it made the studio albums feel a little emptier. But I mean, I agree with you, but I think I heard this version of Stop Your Sobbing before I heard the Pretenders, right? Listen to them.
And there are two things that you said that I think are both accurate. Number one is that I had not knowingly listened to the Kinks version of "You Really Got Me" before listening to Van Halen. And second, it was the same thing with me. It was, I mean, I may have known about and listened to the song "You Really Got Me" before I listened to this album, but I did not own any Kinks albums when I was first exposed to this album.
Yeah.
And so this was the starting point for my exploration of the Kinks, which came afterwards. And I guess that's probably a good way to kind of start to wrap up our discussion here, is that for anyone who's not familiar with the Kinks, and they know of them only for things like, oh yeah, they did the original version of Van Halen's "You Really Got Me" and whatnot, whatever. Or they're the ones that did the original version of the Pretenders version of "Stop Your Sobbing." Check out this live album, and because if you like this, you'll like the Kinks, and because they do a good job of taking their material from multiple different eras and packaging it such that while being faithful to the original songs, make them that much more accessible. And there's a lot of material out there from these guys, some of which is better than others, but you won't be bored looking into the Kinks, and you certainly won't be bored listening to side 2 of this album, "One for the Road."
Absolutely, and it's kind of as I was talking about early on. I mean, this was a band I believe, because of their own doing, never got the credit and commercial success that they really deserved, based on the music that they were making, the talent that they had, the songs that they were writing, and how forward looking that they were, which is it's a shame for them. But you pointed out the fact, accurately I believe, that creates an opportunity for listeners now that may not have heard this stuff, left and right on the radio and potentially early played, and can be introduced to it now. And it's certainly worth it. This is a great starting point. It's a great album, a great side of music, as are the other sides on the album. I'd agree. I think this would be the best of the four, but the others are good as well. And a great conversation to boot.
Definitely. All right. Well, Mark, we will talk to you next time.